So today I want to ask you something. I want to ask you, what is it that you see on this paper? Take a look. Well, I'm sure many of you said that you saw a rectangle. But the reality is there isn't a rectangle drawn on this paper. Rather, it's 4 circles with a pie-shaped piece cut out of each. See, our brains are really amazing because they're able to take incomplete information and make sense of it. They take the unknown and they organize it into something that's understandable for us. And when that happens, we often get a sense of satisfaction, which is a release of chemicals in our brains called dopamine, because we reward ourselves when we recognize and are able to complete patterns. Robert Burton, a neurologist and novelist, writes, "Because we are compelled to make stories, we are often compelled to take incomplete stories and run with them, because it helps us understand something in our world, even if that explanation is incomplete or wrong." But sometimes this filling in the blanks gets us in troubles because we do it with people. See, the reality is that in the absence of real information, we will always make up stories. We do not like the uncertainty of blank spaces, so we fill them in. Let's use an example. So let's say there's a guy named Tim, and Tim is late again. So the only information that we have is that Tim is late. But then we begin to tell ourselves a story. Wow, Tim is always late. Tim has no respect for anyone else. Tim is just selfish and a bad person. Meanwhile, Tim might actually be at the side of the road with a flat tire. He might be looking after his child who is throwing up. He might be on the phone talking with a friend whose mother has just died. But often our inclination is to take our limited information and fill in the blanks and make a negative judgment about Tim. Jesus said in Matthew 7, "Do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. And with the measure you used, it will be used to you." So you might think, well, we're never going to judge anybody? Is that what you're thinking? We should never judge? But what about 1 Corinthians 5:12, when Paul says, "What business is it of mine to judge those outside the church? Are you not to judge those inside?" It feels like there is some place for us to hold each other inside the church accountable, to evaluate, and in a sense, to judge. Now, to judge is to form an opinion or come to a conclusion about someone or something. But let's not confuse that with our understanding of what it means to be being judgmental. That leans more towards having critical views where we tear somebody down. We make negative assumptions about what's hidden in somebody's heart and what their intentions are. There was one occasion when the Jewish leaders were really angry at Jesus for healing someone on the Sabbath. Jesus replies that according to their laws, if a newborn's 8th day falls on a Sabbath, they will still circumcise him to fulfill the law. So Jesus argues, if you're willing to do this on the Sabbath, what's wrong with healing a whole man's body on the Sabbath? And then he says to him, "Stop judging by mere appearances, but instead judge correctly." It says that in John 7. So what does he mean, judge correctly? Well, let's think back to Matthew 7, where Jesus goes on from that statement of judging others to explain that we need to actually take the log out of our own eyes before addressing the speck in our brother or our sister's eyes. In other words, it's time for some self-reflection, to stop, to really ask yourself, what do I actually know? And what part of the story am I making up based on assumptions? What is actual fact? And what story am I telling myself that is blinding me from finding out the truth? And then once you stop, what would it take to move from a posture of judgment to a posture of curiosity? So how do I fill in the parts I don't know? Well, I ask. Going back to the story of Tim being late, I can maybe say to him, "Hey Tim, I noticed you were late. Is everything okay? And what I've accomplished here is an opportunity for relationship. If there is something happening in Tim's life, then I'm available to be a support, to be a friend to him. But if there is a need to address something with Tim, then at least I'm able to address the actual issue. And by slowing down, I can do so in the attitude Paul directs us in Galatians chapter 6, verse 1, which says, "Brothers and sisters, if someone is caught in a sin, you who live by the Spirit should restore that person gently. And I'm able to walk with him, not in frustration or in anger, but instead in love and relationship." Now this was very quick, and there's lots more we could say regarding this, but I just wanted to prime the pump and encourage you to continue to think about this. In the days and the weeks ahead, as you hear and see many things that may lead you to jump to conclusions, I encourage you, before you move to judgment, to pause and ask yourself these questions. Number 1, what are the emotions that are rising up in me? It tells us often a lot about where we're at, the kind of emotions that come up. Number 2, what story am I telling myself that may not be true? So where am I filling in the blanks? And number 3, how can I get curious about what's really happening? How do I discover what the real facts are? And I think that as believers, we can save ourselves a lot of misunderstanding and build strong and healthy relationships in the church as we all grow in this together. So that's my thoughts for now. Blessings.
Hey, so I've got 2 recommendations for you guys today. Corley and I have been taking the opportunity, being home more, to cook some new things or to try some different recipes, and so I want to recommend one for you. This is a garlic parmesan roasted potato recipe, and the link will be down below, and they are absolutely scrumptious. The other thing I want to recommend for you is a podcast. It's called Stuff You Should Know. It's appropriate for probably ages 12 and up, and in this podcast, the 2 hosts, Josh and Chuck, cover a huge variety of topics, everything from dolphins to historical events to how taxes work. And it's pretty interesting. So I hope that you can try some of those things out and have a wonderful day.